Awesome. Okay, guys. So welcome to our call. I see a couple new faces. So what we do for 30 minutes, we cover a couple topics that we hope will be helpful for you with your upcoming training or an upcoming race, since it's almost race season. This is also an opportunity for you to ask any questions. So if there's anything that pertains to the topics that we're on, please type it in the chat, and then we knock it off by checking the chat and answer it accordingly. And if it's something else that we haven't covered tonight, but you think will be really helpful for yourself, but for others, then please just go ahead and ask it as well. At 30 minutes, we just shut it down and we let you all get on with your evening. And then we do timestamp and record it. So we'll send this out tomorrow. Before we get going with tonight's topic, it's all in the details. We have a new coach announcement. So we are going to start there. I'm going to ask him a couple questions, and in hindsight, we probably should do this with all our coaches so you can all get to know our coaches a little bit better. But I'm going to be asking him questions about his background, both personal background, but then also a background as a runner, and then what he's doing now, and then philosophy of coaching, etc., and kind of what he's bringing to the team. So guys, we're really excited to bring on Charlie Lawrence. He is an elite runner out of Boulder, Colorado. And he approached me. He's also a BPN athlete. And so we started connecting on that level, but then also he grew up running with Keeghan. And so he really knew Keeghan and Trey really well. And he could probably give us a little more insight on that story within his background. So Charlie, if you want to say hi to everyone and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, guys? Well, first off, thanks, Natasha. Little shout out to Keeghan too, for kind of making the connection. Stoked to be here. Super excited to kind of get rolling. So I guess a little kind of quick elevator pitch. Originally from a small town in central Minnesota, about 2 hours south, I guess would be east of where Keeghan grew up. So we're both kind of small town kids. I grew up in a small town called Foley, and kind of grew up with parents as coach. My dad was a track coach. Mom was my cross country coach. So I've been in it since really day one. I remember kind of a funny story where when I was in second grade, my parents unfortunately got divorced. It's great scenario for both of them. It was either go to daycare or go to cross country practice with my mom in second grade. I'm like, I'm not going to daycare. So really kind of came up in the sport super early. Just kind of grew in it from there. Was coached very well by my mom, like super kind of methodical, nothing too aggressive. Shout out Anna, awesome, central Minnesota. And from there I was fortunate to compete against Keeghan, I guess, once I got to the high school level. We're both super competitive with each other, and we're both, like I said, from small schools. So we're both very competitive at what we're doing. So you didn't have a ton of competition throughout the year. So whenever I raced Keeghan, you had to bring your A game. So I was fortunate enough to run well, have some scholarship offers. Ended up staying home, went to the University of Minnesota there. Was 2-time All Big Ten, 3-time All Region in cross country. No major track accolades, so made the transition very quickly to the roads from there. And was coached by my college coach, Steve Placentia, who actually talked to him on the phone for 25 minutes this morning. He coached me to my marathon debut, which ultimately got my first pro contract offer kind of January 2019 after CIM in 2018. So it got me to kind of where I'm at now. I was in Hanson's, joined Hanson's right after that, was with them through the 2020 trials. Then I've been training in Boulder ever since then. So that heck of a journey, fun journey, crazy. That's been really coming up on 5 years now of post-collegiate running, professional running. It's been a fun journey. So I guess that's a quick pitch on how I got here.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Do you want to kind of share what did you do on your marathon debut? What some of your road times that awarded you like a pro contract as a runner?
Yeah, so I was right away. I knew I didn't have a shot at really making the Olympic trials in like the 5K or 10K. I just didn't have the track credentials. I was PRs are still from college, 29-18, 14-18, which they're solid. They're not going to qualify for the Olympic trials or take a stab at an Olympic team. So right away, Plaz, Coach Placentia, my college coach, was like, I think you got a shot at Cal International. If you want to wait, kind of 7 months after you finish up collegiate, I'll coach you through that. And so yeah, definitely took, brought me up from a small, relatively, I won't say undertrained, but like, a kid, an 18-year-old, methodically built up my mileage training, kind of the training load, and kind of applied that same thing to post-collegiately to a half marathon, then up to the marathon in that 7-month stretch. But yeah, I was fortunate. I ran my debut marathon 2:16:10 as a 23-year-old. We got my OTQ, qualified for the trials. At that time the standard was 2:19. So the goal going in was to run 2:18:59, just get that qualifier. It just went well enough where, at the time it was the fastest 23-year-old in the United States for that year in 2018. It was one of the fastest debuts. It still, I believe it topped, don't quote me, like 35 debut by an American, which it was a little quicker then, a little higher on the list. So yeah, then right after that I had some pro contract offers on the table, and it's something that you couldn't turn down. So yeah, then joined Hanson's Brooks after that in Michigan. So yeah, so 2:19 marathon in 2018. Still my PR to this day. Unfortunately, I've had some marathons go poorly, where I ran at the Marathon Project in 2020, where went on a 2:10 pace, just blew up. The trials were kind of an anomaly, where it's like you just kind of go at the front pack and hang on till you can't any longer. So still don't have a marathon on the calendar right now, but hopefully we'll get an OTQ. We're actually shooting for it in the half at Grandma's half this spring, which is actually also my half PR, 64:14. And then I've also run the 50K. I was sixth place to the 50K champs in 2021. And prior to that, had actually paced my close friend Des to her 50K world record. So those are probably kind of the two big notches in my belt: sixth place there, and then being able to pace Des. So
yeah. And for those who, when he says Des, it's Des Linden, who won the Boston Marathon 2-3 years ago. And then did she set like a record at the 50K, or what did she do there? And then,
yep. So 2018 Boston Marathon champion, and then right kind of when the pandemic hit, everything kind of shut down. She's like, what's something that's fun that I think that's achievable? So she set out to try to break the 50K world record. So at the time it was 3:07 and change. She ran 2:59:54. And I was fortunate just to be able to pace her for it. And I used it as kind of a long run in my 50K buildup, and worked well, being able to key off her and test bottles every 5K. Really work on my nutrition as well, and obviously having her to bounce ideas off of and work with was awesome. So
awesome.
Yeah.
And then last question for you, and then we'll go on to tonight's topic. You've been coaching a bunch of people up to this point, and I'm guessing, we've talked about this already, but obviously personal experience, which I'm a big fan of as well. But what are some of the you mentioned Brooks, the Hanson team. What are some coach mentors that you've had through your career that's kind of developed your running philosophy and training up to this point?
Yeah, so kind of the first thing that I've noticed where I've been able to get the most out of, one, with myself and my coaches, and myself with my athletes, is being able to, I guess, really truly connect with them and know what gets them fired up and what gets them excited in running. So like Kevin Hanson was great at, he was an awesome motivator, kind of getting you fired up to race. My prior coach, Corey Leslie, kind of the same thing. And then even now Richie, my current coach with Roots Running in Boulder, gets to know you on a personal level, know what fires you up, but then also knows your strengths and weaknesses. So kind of for me, it's kind of multifaceted with two parts. With one, get to know the athlete, and two, like what gets them excited. Where it's, one of my athletes right now, he's pretty quick, and he hates the longer stuff. So it's like just making sure, getting a healthy mix, doing stuff that excites him. And I see that even with Richie, my current coach now, where I'm training for a half marathon, but yesterday I had literally all out 200s with 3 minutes rest, which is not typically something you do in a marathon segment, but something that your athlete needs to work on and will help them. So kind of doing the fun, the hard work, and truly kind of getting to know them as a person. So, and that same thing too with my college coach. I talked to him for 25 minutes this morning about everything from skiing to running to girlfriends, the whole shebang. So
awesome.
Those are definitely kind of my two components for sure.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing today and giving a little insight into you. And guys, he'll be taking on running and ultra running athletes, which we have some that have had experience in that, but not obviously at Charlie's personal level. So we're excited to welcome you to the team, Charlie.
Yeah. Thanks, Natasha.
Thanks. Okay, guys, we're going to get on with our topic for tonight. And so we're going to get started. I believe, Ashton, you had a couple things that you wanted to contribute to tonight's call.
Yeah, so, and I know there's a lot of other coaches, so I'll keep this brief on what we want to do, but as we're leading up to this next week, one thing that I encourage all of you to do, especially if you have or have not had your call with your coaches, one thing that you might think about is just start thinking through race morning, your transitions, all of those small things that tend to maybe get lost in the overall weekend. So one thing that I do is I literally write out what I'm going to do that morning whenever I wake up. And I know that's in our race script as well, but really lean into that, lean into what time are you waking up? You know, I literally schedule it out like 4:20 to 4:25. I'm going to drink water, you know, be as detailed as possible. That way, whenever race morning comes, you don't have to think about it. You kind of can just refer to it. And it's almost kind of comforting to have it written down to where you're like, okay, I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So I encourage you to think about race morning, specifically just what's going to make you feel as most prepared and comfortable as you can be, so that whenever you wake up in the morning, it's not kind of like a rush. And then the other thing that I do with race morning is I actually go over that schedule with my husband or whoever is staying in the house with me, so that they know, okay, this is the routine that I need to go through on race morning so that I am prepared. And, you know, surely your support crew know that they need to take care of themselves that morning. And this is a time that we need to be in the car. So just kind of having that conversation with them. I'm very quiet race mornings as well. I sometimes just put in headphones and just kind of go into my zone. And if that's you, then great. If you need, you know, laughter and, you know, lightheartedness, whatever it is, kind of think about what's going to help you feel the most prepared, so that whenever you get to transition, vibes are high, spirits high, we're ready to go, we're excited. So again, as we're kind of leading up into race week this week, just kind of think through that race morning, what's going to make you feel the very best that you can that morning.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach Ashton. Guys, I'm going to jump in with one quick little race win or something to be aware of, especially for Galveston. You know, we always think about defogging our goggles so that they don't mist up when we're swimming. But because it is so humid in Galveston, it's very common that our visors and our sunglasses get fogged up as well. I've lost many a sunglass where I'm just like, screw it, I'm throwing it to the ground. And so think about whatever you're using to clean your goggles, do that as well for your sunglasses. I use a brand called Muck Off specifically for my visors, and that for sure keeps it clean all the way through. So ask around if you don't have it. Otherwise, you have enough time to purchase it before race day. So moving on to the next coach, Katie, I see you have a couple topics.
Yes, I do. So I was trying to think of some of the things that I've gone over with my athletes that I've had my calls with already. And I'm really big, and this kind of like goes right along with Ashton, and we didn't plan this, but it kind of goes right along with it, where she was talking about visualizing race morning. And I'm just really big on visualizing also, like throughout the race day. So I tell my athletes, like as they're coming out of the water, like those last 200-300 meters. So those buoys, like in your brain, you're already starting to play of what you're going to do when you get out of the water. So you're already visualizing T1. What does that look like? I remember, I think it was Harold last year, maybe it was Natasha, made some really good points about like when you take off your goggle and your cap, if you have a long sleeve wetsuit on, take it off, and then opposite hand comes out of the wetsuit, you let it go, and then it's already in there. If you have sleeveless on, I'm a fan of just leaving it on until you get the wetsuit all the way off and then take it off so you have free hands. So just thinking through all those little steps so you're not as flustered when you run into T1. And then same thing, like when you're coming in off that bike, before you dismount, you're already playing in your head, like, what does T2 look like? What do I put on first? What do I put on last? Am I going to take any gel? What do I need? Am I going to put on sunblock? Like some of the must needs that I need going through T2 as well. And then finally, I also think that it's so important to bring family and friends and spectators if they've come, to bring them into race day with you. So tell them, like, whatever the mantras are that you're playing over in your head when you kind of go to the dark places, like tell them those words or Bible verses or phrases or keywords that you are replaying, so they can kind of shout those out to you as you're on course. And that just kind of draws you out of some of those dark places sometimes, like seeing their face and then hearing those key words and phrases. If you don't have anyone going with you, then tell your coach, because we're happy to yell your splits, but then also yell whatever it is that's going to help you kind of get into that in the moment present, enjoying what you're doing and all your hard work coming together on race day. So that's it.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Okay, Coach Mike, do you have anything for today?
Nope, I'm just here to contribute.
Okay, sounds good. Coach Harold, do you have anything for today?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about wetsuits. Both races this weekend, Galveston and Oceanside, we have athletes that are at both places. They're both going to be wetsuit swims. So if you haven't practiced getting out of your wetsuit, then do so this week. Do it at least a few times. Also remember that some of these races will have wetsuit strippers. I'm pretty sure they will at Galveston. I'm not sure about Oceanside. Scope that out and make sure that if they do have them and if you want to use them, have a plan for that. The plan for that is really simple, is make sure that you're out of the top half of your wetsuit by the time you get to the station where the wetsuit strippers are. And then you're going to sit down on your butt and they're going to take the rest of it off for you. But make sure that that's in your game plan as you're going through transition. If you're not using the wetsuit strippers, then you need to practice getting out of your wetsuit. And anytime that you can do two things at once, then you're in a good place. So when you're at your station and you're getting the finishing parts of your wetsuit off with legs, you can also be putting on your helmet at the same time. So that's typically what I'll do. I'll rush to my wetsuit or to my transition area. I'll already have the wetsuit down below my hips. Top half of my body is out. As soon as I come to my bike, I'm buckling put my helmet on as I'm getting out of the rest of the wetsuit with my feet. So I just kind of do a high knee thing and then step on it with the other foot, do another high knee thing and step on it with the other foot. And you'll probably be close to getting out of it by then. If not, then, your helmet's buckled. Now you can reach down with your hands and do the finishing touch of getting the little, your feet out of the rest of the wetsuit. But make sure that you know what that looks like in the transition area of the race that you're doing, where you're going to be, where the wetsuit strippers are, where your station is at your transition, and make sure that you're planning that out and have a good idea of what that looks like. Practice getting out of the wetsuit a couple of times this week. I mean, just jump in the pool real quick, get wet, jump out, take your wetsuit off, put it back on, jump in the pool real quick, swim a lap, get out, take it off again. A couple of times of practice to make you feel better about that.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach Harold. Okay, Coach Nick, I see you had a couple things.
Yep, I did. So the first thing that always amazes me when you talk about results with someone after they do an Ironman brand race is their transitions are always a lot slower than they think they are. No one really comprehends till you've done this how big those transitions are. And so Drea and Keeghan did a great video, I think about last year, about doing transitions. So if you haven't watched that, check that out. But the one tip I would say about transitions is make sure you have some type of marker of where you're at so that you know whether it's the row name or a location that you come to. And second of all, you have to address, are you going to run in bike shoes? And are you effective running in bike shoes? Or are you going to leave your shoes on the bike and run barefoot? You're always going to probably pick up about a minute going through transition running barefoot and leaving your shoes on your bike. But if you're not comfortable with that, you can carry them in your hand and run with them and then drop them before you get to the mountain line to put them on. Because you see all the time people kind of walking through transition, and you don't want to sprint because we want to control our heart rate, but you have to kind of move with a purpose through transition because, it's a race. It's the fastest time you can go from point A to point B. That's the goal. And so you see a lot of people walking because they're in their bike shoes and they really don't feel comfortable kind of jogging around. And so that'd be my tip, spend a little bit of time figuring out how you're going to get from point A to point B. To go along with what Harold said, when you're there the day before, you're not going to be able to get in the water like at some of these races, but you can at least look as to what the markers are, where the buoys are. Ironman does a really good job of putting those buoys out the day before the race. So really look at, directionally what you're going to swim to if you're not able to see the buoys. What are the land markers that you can use to sight? So those are my two items.
Awesome. That's perfect. And before I forget, as far as getting out of the wetsuit, something that does help is cutting the bottoms off your wetsuit. If your wetsuit goes all the way to your ankle, where it typically gets stuck for you all, and you might lose a minute just trying to get it off your ankles. Something that the pros do, and I know it's like a $500 wetsuit, and in some cases more, but they cut the bottoms off just about this much. And it just makes it so much easier to take that wetsuit off and in turn save you some free time. So, okay, we're going on to the next coach. I see Parker, you have some things.
Yeah, so I have like a few little list of a few small things that may help. Really quickly, one thing that I think every athlete should do is when you're at the race, make your own list of things that just little tips and tricks, like stuff that you, because we have that great sheet that we all sent out, the race day checklist. But I found that everyone's different, so everyone has their own things that they may want to bring with them. Other items, and so I have a list personally of like a checklist of everything. So I go through the NVDM one, and then I also have my own, and just like personal things that may not be on the main one, but everyone I think should or would help benefit from a personal checklist. But then also, if you have a disc wheel, make sure you have a crack pipe, or you know what a crack pipe is, how to fill up your rear wheel. I had an athlete, he was asking me, Parker, how do I pump up my disc wheel? So make sure to figure out what a crack pipe is, where you can go. And I think they sell them on Amazon, or go to your local bike store. They should have them. Also, baby powder. If you're coming out of the water and you have wet feet, putting baby powder in your shoes, your bike shoes, that can also help with wet feet, putting your shoes on. Also, increasing the cadence at the end of the bike ride before you start running. That just helps getting the blood flowing a little bit more and helps get your legs more used to or get ready for that run portion or the run portion of the race. One more, a bobby pin. You'll all get timing chips at these races. This is your first one, you may not know, but you get a little timing chip they put on around your ankle, and it does have Velcro. But I just know that sometimes the swims can be a little hectic, and if you're putting socks on, taking socks off, it may just, fly out. So if you just bobby pin it, safety pin it, then that's just one less thing you have to worry about. So bring a few extra bobby pins. You never know when they can come in handy. And I know Natasha said this quite a few times, but bring your sandals, especially to Galveston. You're not going to be walking there barefoot around to the swim start. And also, if this is your last tip really quickly, if this is your first time ever open water swimming at a race, don't be too discouraged if your swim time at the race is a bit slower than what you've been swimming in a wetsuit in the pool with no one else beside you. You're probably going to go a little bit slower outside at the race. So if you come out and you're like maybe 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes slower than kind of what you're expecting, don't be discouraged. Wait till the after race to see how everyone else did. As Natasha's told me multiple times, it's not exactly the time that you should be concerned about. It's about how you stack up to other people around your same ability that you should look at when comparing times and looking at your results. So that's my little quick laundry list of helpful tips.
That's helpful. Guys, it's so true. So many times we find that a course might have been long or just really crazy wavy and really affect the swim times. Maybe everyone has gone like 3 to 4 minutes slower. But if it's just you get out of the pool and you're 3 to 4 minutes slower than what you've been expecting, you're like, man, I had a crap swim. After the race, you're going to find out, well, everyone went 3 to 4 minutes slower, then you feel better about yourself. So the biggest thing is how you felt, how you personally did, take the time with a grain of salt and move on. Okay. Those are great tips, Parker. Alice, I see you have a couple tips.
I do. Mine are more like time-saving tips. A lot of it is transition stuff like Nick was talking about. When you're setting up your transition, it might be in a bag. I'm not actually sure what 70.3 Texas is going to be, but this one's so basic. But make sure your socks are right side out. And I actually put them in the shoe that I'm going to be putting on. So slip it on, put it on. You don't want to get to transition and be having to flip your socks around. That's be ridiculous. The second one on that is get lock laces. Do not be tying your shoelaces. Look up lock laces if you don't know what they are. And before the race, run in them. You want to make sure you don't have them too tight. That would be cutting off your circulation. Your feet are going to swell throughout the race. So make sure you practice running in those lock laces and use them. I'm looking at my list. I always have my race belt pre-buckled. Your hands are kind of going like this. buckle it and then put it on over your head. And then you can head out that way. And then this one's not time saving, but just purely out of having a good race, have someone at the finish line having the kind of food that you can tolerate at the end of a race, and clean clothes to change into right away. You'll be a lot happier at the end of a race with those things. And I think that was everything else. Everyone else kind of had all the other tips already. Nick's was huge. Race morning, like make sure you are walking swim trend. Like when you're out of the swim, you know exactly where your bike is. If you're grabbing a bag, make sure you know exactly where your bag is. You don't want to be running up and down looking for your bag. So practice that a lot.
Perfect. Yeah. And I see Keeghan just chimed in. If Keeghan and Dre, if you want to jump on some of the other tips we haven't mentioned yet. Is he on?
Yeah, sorry there. No, button was slow. No, the big one for me is just like making sure that you have a flashlight. That's the one that last year at Indian Wells, I went and all the pros and everybody had forgotten it. They're like, man, that's so nice that you have like one of those headlamps. And so just make sure your batteries are charged. That's the biggest thing. If you have Di2, charge it, like, you know, get everything taken care of right now, because you do not want to be in a race and have your gears not working when you have a tailwind. Like make sure everything's working, charge your pedals, charge your, all that kind of stuff. So my big thing is like control the control, which is any battery, flashlights, all that kind of stuff. Make sure you have it, and then have backups as well. So.
Awesome. Great. Guys, are there any other coaches who want to chime in on something that we haven't spoken about? I have a couple more.
Yeah, I'll go real quick, Natasha. This is McKenzie. One, for race day morning, get there early to transition. A lot of people's bikes will lose air or whatever, so get there early as you can. Second, nutrition leading up to the race. I saw that, Susan, you asked about that. We should be reducing our fiber intake a little bit leading up to the race, just for GI distress. And you also can consume up to 10 grams per kilogram of carbohydrates 24 to 36 hours before the race. So that's always a really good thing to remember. And we want those to be low glycemic carbohydrates, not fast, not high glycemic carbohydrates. So you want those like not instant oatmeal, but the regular oatmeal. Look up, Google low glycemic carbohydrates. We want to store up on those as refill our glycogen before the race day. So think about that. And then also water. A lot of people drink so much water 24 to 36 hours that you actually dehydrate yourself. So if you are taking in water, take it with electrolytes, and only take it when you're thirsty. You don't want to dehydrate yourself by drinking gallons and gallons of water. You're actually worse off race day morning if you do that. So be careful, 24 to 36 hours before race day, just drink when you're thirsty, and make sure those are electrolytes in there. Those are mine.
Awesome. That's perfect. I see we have two more. Julz, if you want to hit up the travel tip, and then we'll have Charlie next.
Yeah, definitely. If you guys are flying to Galveston or Oceanside, wherever your race may be, even during the year, if you're bringing 2 suitcases, make sure your carry-on suitcase is of the equipment that you do not want lost. So your bike helmet, your bike shoes, your tri-kit, sunglasses, all that type of stuff. And then on the check bag, making sure it's stuff you don't care about losing. There's been situations where athletes have gotten their luggage lost and all of their bike equipment's in there, you know, their race shoes and all that. So make sure you're just on your carry-on using your bike equipment. And then also packing extra for the race, packing 2 pairs of goggles. You know, if you're someone, you don't know if you want to wear a sleeveless wetsuit, you know, long sleeve wetsuit, just little details like that is going to go a long way. Something that I always do is I think to myself before the travel day, what does future Julz need? What am I going to need? What is going to make me feel a lot better? Having extra pairs of things always helps me. And also if your goggles break and all that, just having that extra comfort there is going to go a long way. So that's fine.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to just add to that. If you are traveling and even if not too far, everyone is obviously driving or flying to Galveston, but typically race week, if I haven't done it already, I make little Ziplocs of swim, bike, run. And so I'll write on there swim, and then I'll put in my swim skin, my wetsuit, my goggles with that baby shampoo or defog for the goggles. I might even put in the gel that I'm going to take before the swim. So it's basically everything that's going to go into the morning clothes bag that I need specifically for the swim. And then I do the same with the bike, all the specifics. And then once you're there on race day, it's just easy to unpack, you're prepared, but it'll ease a lot of anxiety doing that now. And once you're done with the race, do that immediately as well. Like clean up all your stuff, immediately put it back into those Ziploc bags and store it away. That way, the next time the race comes, it's not like this frantic, I need to get everything ready. It's like, no, it's ready. Here are the Ziploc bags. We're good to go. Okay. Charlie, you had a run tip. Let's hear it.
Yeah, just super quick. Obviously it's a little different post T2 in triathlons because the course differs, but I always like know the course, know the tangents. Easiest way in like a marathon or road race to cut off a lot of time and cut off distance. I know you mentioned that earlier, Natasha, with the run course, and distances being off. So run the shortest line, quick, easy way to save time, and like easy to catch up to packs too if they're running just the road, take the tangents. So shortest line.
Yeah, guys, that is so important. We actually we don't see a lot of people doing that. And Galveston, if you've not done it, and we have a lot of people on the school doing that, there's a lot of corners. And so just make sure you're going into it at the shortest distance possible. And same thing when you're going through, because it gets pretty crowded at the aid stations, like kind of go in with a strategic plan. If there's a lot of people, if you see there are like 10 people at the front table getting water and gels, well, don't go to that table, go to the next table and just be ready with your hands to grab everything that you need. So many times I see people getting to an aid station, they're still fumbling around with the gel. If you're going to take a gel and then water, take the gel like 200 meters before the aid station, and then your hands are free, toss away the packet and then get to the table and grab as many waters and that as possible. Do know, like if it's going to be really hot and humid, in order to stay up with your sweat loss, like I would be grabbing like 5 cups every single aid station, because it's like 1 on the head, 1 on the kit, 1 in the mouth, Gatorade. And then again, just to keep up with what my sweat rate is, you guys know how much you lose. And so too many times I see someone coming in for 1 cup. I'm like, that didn't help you any on that race. Like you're going to get dehydrated through this race. So just be ready with your hands to grab as much as you need. Let's see if we have anyone else. Katie, go ahead. That's a good one. Do you want to talk about that quickly?
Yeah, I just was going to say last year in Galveston, I don't know what was going on, but there was a lot of drafting going on, like lots. I think because it's an out and back, like it just natural, but then also there's some people that know how to work it. So just know that it's happening. Honestly, y'all, I'm vocal about it. Like I'll straight up call someone out and be like, leave me alone, get off my tail. Like I'll just say something. Like you can be nice, but just call it out if you need to. And then also, it's everyone makes, like it happens, a mistake, like you can be innocent going by and you get the penalty card. Just know where the penalty tent is, so that you can stop and do your time and then go on with the race. And don't worry about it. It's part of life. So you got it. Don't let that ruin any part of your race day.
Awesome. That's perfect. Guys, we'll give I have 3 quick things. I'm just going to mention it. We don't really need to go into detail, but I had this conversation this week with some folks. Again, if your goggles are fogging up in training, know that just some simple soap, we say baby shampoo, that way if it does get in your eyes, at least it doesn't burn a ton. So rinse out your goggles and test it out before race day to know that they're going to be clear. It's nothing worse than having foggy goggles on race day. Pulling up your wetsuit. If you're practicing in your wetsuit and you're like, man, my shoulders are so restricted, you're just not pulling it up enough. Sometimes getting water within the wetsuit actually helps you pull it up even more. So if you have a coach, like we know how to pull it up and really get the best mobility. But if there's no one else around you or a teammate around you, have a water bottle, pour some in it, and then work on the shoulders again. We don't want the muscular fatigue to be a limiter on race day for you. Don't diet this week. We had a couple people who are like, I feel like I need to lose a few more pounds to feel good about myself. And in my kit, this is not the week to do that. You've done the best you can up to this point. Obviously, you don't need to overeat. You've already limited your training. And so if you just eat your regular diet, but then as McKenzie said, you're starting to switch to just more, fewer fiber foods, go, a little more focus on the carbohydrate as we get closer to the race. But don't stop not taking in workout fuel either. So many times we see people like, oh, it's only 40 minutes. I don't need to fuel this workout. No, you still need to fuel this workout. Make sure your gut's ready to handle the fuel come race day. You don't deplete yourself. You're still taking in sodium because you're sweating. Essentially, my rule is if you're sweating, you're taking in sodium, even though your diet calls for it afterwards. But we just don't want to get behind. signal you cramping in the pool, it's probably because you got behind on the run workout that day. So no cheats this week, you guys. Okay. I think that's it. We're over our time, but guys, good luck. We're so excited. We're going to see a whole bunch of you in, we have 56 people racing Texas 70.3. So if you have not RSVP'd for the dinner, friends, family, welcome. We expect about 100 of you on Saturday night. It's a ton of food and it's really healthy and will fit for any of your diets. So please join us. It's a great time. You can even just come, eat, leave, and be on your way, but we'd love to see you. And then if you're not racing in Texas, good luck in Oceanside and all the other races around town. We're so excited to track you, and we'll see you. We won't have a call next Sunday because we're all in Galveston, but the week after. Okay. Bye, guys. Thank you. Coaches, if you can stay on for a second.